It was supposed to be a week of fun and adventure at Camp Whispering Pines, nestled deep in the heart of the forest. A group of 10 kids ranging from ages 10 to 14 had been looking forward to this trip all summer. Led by their enthusiastic camp counselors, Mr. Adams, Miss Thompson, and Mr. Parker, they spent their days hiking, swimming, and learning about nature. On the last night of camp, the counselors planned a special treat, a late-night campfire. The kids gathered around the fire, roasting marshmallows and listening to ghost stories. The moon hung high in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the forest. As the fire crackled and the stories grew more intense, the atmosphere turned from playful to unsettling. Suddenly, a distant scream echoed through the trees. The group fell silent, their eyes wide with fear. Mr. Adams stood up, his face pale. "Stay here," he instructed. "I'll go check it out." He disappeared into the darkness, leaving the children huddled together. Minutes passed, but Mr. Adams didn't return. Miss Thompson, trying to maintain her composure, decided to go after him. "Stay close to the fire," she told the kids, her voice trembling slightly. "I'll be right back." Time dragged on, and the night seemed to grow colder. The children began to whisper among themselves, fear creeping into their voices. "What if something happened to them?" one of the younger boys, Timmy, asked, his eyes brimming with tears. Mr. Parker, the last remaining counselor, attempted to reassure them. "They're probably just making sure everything is okay," he said. But even he looked worried. He stayed with the kids, trying to keep their spirits up. An hour later, Miss Thompson stumbled back into the camp, her face as white as a sheet. "We have to leave now," she cried, her voice shaking. "Mr. Adams he's dead. Something killed him." Panic erupted among the children. "What do you mean?" asked Sarah, a brave 13-year-old, stepping forward. "What happened?" Miss Thompson shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "There's no time to explain. We have to get out of here before it finds us too." Mr. Parker quickly organized the group, grabbing flashlights and supplies. "Stay together and keep quiet," he instructed. The children clung to each other as they began their trek through the dark, foreboding forest. The night was filled with strange sounds, rustling leaves, distant howls, and an occasional snapping branch. Every noise made them jump, their hearts pounding in their chests. They walked for what felt like hours, fatigue setting in, but the fear of whatever lurked in the woods drove them forward. Suddenly, Miss Thompson, who was leading the group, stopped abruptly. Ahead of them, illuminated by the moonlight, was Mr. Parker's lifeless body sprawled on the ground. The children screamed, but Miss Thompson quickly silenced them. "We have to keep moving," she whispered urgently. Tears streaming down their faces, the children followed Miss Thompson deeper into the forest. Their journey became a harrowing test of endurance and bravery. They stumbled over roots, scratched by branches, and plagued by the ever-present feeling of being watched. As dawn approached, they finally reached the edge of the forest. Exhausted and terrified, they collapsed onto the grass, the town just visible in the distance. Miss Thompson gathered the remaining strength she had to lead them the last few kilometers to safety. When they reached the town, they were met with shock and disbelief. The police were called, and an investigation began. The children were reunited with their families, but the horror of that night stayed with them forever. The forest was searched, but no definitive explanation for the deaths of Mr. Adams and Mr. Parker was found. The official report listed it as an animal attack, but the children knew the truth. Something far more sinister had been stalking them in the woods. Years later, the survivors of Camp Whispering Pines still gathered to remember their lost counselors and the terror they had faced. The forest remained a place of mystery and fear, a dark memory etched into their minds. They never went back, but the whispers of what happened that night haunted them forever.